Liftoff of mission 41D, first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Well, hello to the Health or High Water podcast. I'm Trip Parks with
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Brett. We got a very special guest here today, Adrian Bybee. We're going to get to that here in a second. First off, we want to thank our sponsors, Gene Planet, O2 Boost. We got some amazing stuff happening down the road here with them. Kalevala Labs, our supplement brand. You can find that on ascendperformancetraining.com. Also, our clothes company, You vs. You, that sponsors this, Laguna's Coffee.
Yes, shout out Laguna's Coffee, the best.
As well as health profiling, available on Kindle and Amazon.
What else? Are we missing any shout outs?
Shout out Dad.
All right, Mom and Dad. Adrian, what's happening, my friend here?
Oh, not much. So excited to be here in Denver in person.
Yes, let's go.
Love it, love it.
First time in Denver, yeah?
First time in Denver. Rolled in and blessed to have great weather in November. That's always a good sign when it's, fall weather in November versus winter.
You missed it by 1 week, by the way. You missed the winter by 1 week.
I know. Great time so far already. Been showing me the beauties of Denver, mountains and everything. So been great experience so far.
How'd you acclimate to the weather or the altitude?
Oh, it's fine. Well, altitude-wise, where are you guys at?
5280 in Denver, and then where we were hiking, we were at 11,000.
Yeah,
so
we went up to
doubled
11,000. Yeah. So my hometown in Pocatello, Idaho, we're right around about 4,800 elevation-wise, and then.
That's pretty high up there.
Yeah. So and then used to going skiing, and like our local mountain I go skiing at. I think that one elevation hits about 16,000. So. Not too bad.
So
acclimate it.
I am so excited to have this podcast. I know this is a long time waiting. I think we should start from the beginning on how we got connected.
How did we meet?
I'm gonna pass this over to Trip, but we're either of you guys to answer kind of how we got connected.
I think I'll give it to him. I'll give it to the guest, and from your perspective, my man.
Yeah. So I mean, biggest thing, LinkedIn. I'm always out trying to network and really just get to know people, and had reached out to Trip on LinkedIn, just like, hey, what's going on? We got connected, and then really just turned into a conversation due to a lot of similarities in our background, especially being former football players. That was one of the big ones that kind of started our conversation, and we just got going more and more and more, and brought me to here. So, I mean, and in a short amount of time, like this isn't been over years on that
Right.
end. I think when we first connect on LinkedIn, maybe 2 months ago? Maybe?
Way
Yeah.
less. Way less.
Yeah.
Month and a half.
Had it been about a month and a half, maybe.
So it been quick, but I tell you what, one of the best friendships I've made so far. So.
Hey, right back at you. I want to give the listeners a little perspective. Thanks again. So those joining us for the first time, you're on Health or High Water. We appreciate having you. And for those who have been with us, you know the story on kind of what we do. I want to give the listeners a little bit of background on you. You're a football player, among other things. You're a father for, and a lot of other things. And aside from being an awesome guy, you played football at an elite level.
I did. I played at Utah State University, and really my pathway there was more unconventional. Out of high school, I wasn't heavily recruited, and I had a decision to make out of high school. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I knew I was going to serve a 2-year mission for my church. At the time, I couldn't go until I was 19, so I had a year before I was going on this mission, and had kind of this decision, hey, do I go to college? I wasn't heavily recruited. What do I do? And ended up deciding to wait, kind of hold off college until after I came home off the mission. So when I came home off the mission, I kind of had to self-recruit myself. And that's when I got a couple preferred walk-on offers, got one at Utah State, got one at Boise State, and had to try to decide between those two, which one's a better option. At the time, I thought, hey, Utah State just hired a new coach. They're kind of going through this rebuild. Maybe I'll have a better opportunity over there. Plus, Utah State has a whole bunch better academic-wise than Boise State. So it's like, let's go there. And so went there as a preferred walked-on and worked my tail in order to earn a scholarship and then a starting spot by my senior year. So.
Yeah, and Trip, you guys connected so well because of your football background.
Yeah, we started kind of conversating about the struggles of post football, post sports life, and then what you're doing currently right now, right, with doing motivational speaking, this wellness retreat that we're gonna kind of touch up on here. Little spoiler.
Foreshadowing.
And as well as you coach and mentor as well, right? So what do you do if you're we'll keep that the spoiler on the side here. So what do you do for your mentorships and whatnot?
Yeah. So after my time of being an athlete and my senior year, I kind of knew that there was going to be possibly a lot of uncertainty with pursuing a professional career in football. Whether that was being a free agent, whether it was bouncing around to practice squads, whether go Canadian route. And so there's so much uncertainty happening. And at the time, we had just had our first kid, which we weren't planning on having a kid at that point. And so I started to think about, my wife, she's been super supportive of me, super unclear. Well, let's use my 2 degrees. Let's provide, a little bit more certainty to my young family at that time. Well, take that down the road 6 years, and that put me down to a deep, dark hole where attempted to end my life twice. It was after that second attempt that I really had a moment of clarity. And it was like, okay, I need to be there for my kids. I need to be there for my wife. And at that time, I now had 3 kids in this crazy world. And so 7 years later really brought me down to where I am today, which is trying to help other athletes just like myself who, after they left sports, had this void that they just, 1, they didn't understand. 2, they didn't necessarily know how to fill. And were tired of the ups and downs with their careers. I would go out, I would experience great success in a year in a career, and then all of a sudden I would either be burned out, I hated it, and because I was still grieving the fact that I wasn't playing football. And so that put me on this path in order now, so now I'm coaching former athletes, really helping them not just get past that level, but now be a great sales professional. Because over the past 12 years, that's been really where I've been focused on the sales side. And it's amazing what you can actually achieve as an athlete in the sales field. So I do that. I do some keynote speaking as well, kind of talking about those experiences. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this retreat too. So
we have an exciting announcement that'll be coming up in a few minutes. We'll get into. Let's get into the weeds a little bit on that. Number 1, thank you for sharing that. And then number 2, like I said, let's get in the weeds on that. So I played baseball, at a collegiate level, and I had a professional tryout for the Reds, and so this is kind of near to my heart, right? I'm you're totally right. There's this huge void of athletes after they get done. What do they do with life? You notice that. You've experienced that yourself. Talk us through a little bit about that. I know we have athletes listening to this, and how do you even begin to approach that? Is it a mindset? There's a whole program?
There's a whole program. I call it the impact framework, and really the key point number 1 is identity. I mean, yourself, Trip, any athlete out there can identify the fact of you spend years developing your physical skills in order to get to the next level. I started playing football when I was 8 years old, and then for the next 17 years, each and every year was to get better so I can move to the next level. To get better, move to the next level. So 17 years of dedication in order to then not make it to the pinnacle of where you're supposed to go.
Professional.
And, after that, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, just transition. You should be able to transition really easily. That's really easy to say for someone who hasn't spent 17 years, not just on the physical side, developing that, but also on the mental side. Mentally, you identified as an athlete. That's what you were. And then all of a sudden now, being an athlete is essentially stripped away from you. Whether it was your choice, whether you were cut by a team, whether you were let go, didn't quite make the cut, whatever it was, when your athletic career ends, you feel like it was stripped away from you.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's like, well, who am I? Because for the longest time, especially when you're in sports, you can walk around and everyone recognize you. Oh, Trip, hey, Ray, hater, And then all of a sudden, as soon as you stop playing,
Yeah.
And you start walking around like, I mean, even I've talked to some former professionals, like even in their town, like they ask, well, what are you doing now? And then all of a sudden they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing now. Like, you know, no longer are you Adrian, the football player. Now it's like you're just Adrian. And now instantly the platform that you have is just gone. And now you're like, what worth am I really? And for me, and there's a lot of others that might resonate with this, is for me, as soon as my athletic career ended and I had to go into the workforce, my first year out of college, I put 300 applications in to jobs. I had 2 degrees, one in business administration, one in economics. So I thought I could at least get an interview. I ended up only getting 2 interviews, and they were for 100% sales commission jobs.
Yep, I feel that one. I feel that one hard.
And when that happens to you, all of a sudden now you feel like your value is as a person, you know, to educate everything. You're like, I'm actually not valued. I mean, outside of, I need to go play football because I'm at least valued on the field. So why am I trying to be valued in the corporate world when they don't value me? I need to go back to football.
Right, and then you take that choice to go to a good college to get a good education, and then when you're out of it, they're asking you for 10 years of experience in a field you couldn't possibly be a part of because you were playing football.
Yeah, military. You know that's a military thing too, though, right? Like, like a lot of my close friends are military that go serve, and some are in combat, some aren't, but they come home too, and it's like that's part of their identity. Who am I now?
Yeah, you know, that struggle and I know a lot has been kind of talked about like mental health, and it's like, you know, well, this and that, you know, depression, everything. Is it real? Is it not real? Right? And really at the end of the day, it comes down to is like that identity is so ingrained. We've put ourselves into a box. It's hard to really like take us out of that box.
Well, I also think it's not just that. I think it's a combination of identity and purpose. Right, those two things together, it's like you found purpose and identity in something, and now that purpose is gone. You have to find something completely new to satiate that, right?
Well, most people don't even know what their purpose was, right? I mean, as an athlete, you kind of are given what your purpose, passion is. Military is kind of the same way, right? You have a mission, you have an objective to really overcome, and you know, well, when that all of a sudden is removed, now you have to create that on your own. And for the longest time, like, well, you know, what is my purpose on life to fulfill? I mean, for me at the time, I was a father. That's great, but it's like at the time, it wasn't giving me the level of satisfaction as playing sports was.
Yeah, so let's get in a little bit, if you don't mind, to the framework that you're using. What is? Let's begin. We get as in depth as we want to. This is our podcast. We can do whatever the hell we want.
What? It is?
So yeah, let's get into the framework of it.
Yeah. So the impact framework really is kind of, you know, it's an acronym. The I stands for identity, and it's really diving into as far as figuring out who you are as an individual. So not what roles you play, not, you know, what you're capable of doing, but really who are you, right? When people ask me now, like, well, you know, who's Adrian? I was like, well, Adrian's someone who's dedicated, someone who's driven, someone who's got integrity, right? I don't anymore, like for the longest time, I was like, well, I'm a father. I'm, you know, a member of my church. I'm all these things, but that's not really who I am, you know? And so that's kind of key point number one that I dive in with my clients is, you know, let's figure out who you actually are, right? Strip away everything. Who are you? If I were to just put you in the middle of the street, like, and came up to you, like, you know, who are you? It's like, oh yeah, right? So we dive into that. And then also with that identity, and this is one of the things that athletes tend to really like harp themselves on, is their physical side, right? Like, you know, a lot of times, especially after you've been, you know, working out for so long and that structure of the regimen, there's kind of this honeymoon period when you leave sports. Like, I don't have to go to the gym anymore, no early morning, right? But all of a sudden, a year later, all of a sudden you're like, dude, there's something missing in my life. Like, you don't realize it. And then all of a sudden you start to realize that, oh, maybe I'm not able to do as many things as I used to physically. So we dive into like the fitness side of things, of how important your fitness, your health is. And then we also dive in because athletes, especially when you're on that realm of getting into the professional ranks or you get into the professional ranks, we dive into finances because it plays such a big role as far as like who you are, right? Because if you go from a spot where, you can afford the nicer clothes or this, and also the next thing you know is like, dude, I'm shopping at Walmart on the clearance rack because I'm lucky to, have anything else. So that deals in the identity side of it. The next piece we go over is really mastery. Mastery over mind, mastery over self, and really diving into more on that spiritual level as far as that connection that you have to yourself and to a higher being. And that depending upon the person can take so many different routes. But the biggest thing is really diving in and understanding how that self-talk amongst yourself on that end. The next thing we go over is purpose, like you mentioned, Trip, right? And purpose really is such an interesting topic, right? A lot of people like to put purpose and passion together, right? But it's not really, they're not the same thing, right? I know we were talking about this when we went on a hike, and well, I tell you what, there's some beautiful mountains out here to hike, you all. But
by the way, Trip didn't come with us.
Yeah, he did not.
I was there in spirit.
But we're talking about how like you can have a passion for so many different things. Like if I ask you, Brett, what are you passionate about?
I could name off a lot of things. I mean, music, teaching baseball, writing. I could go on and on. Stuff I'm passionate about. Yeah.
Right. And then, like Trip, same thing for you. Like, where's your passion? If I was like, hey, give me your top passion or 2 or 3.
Watching movies alone. Finding free water spigots. It's one of my pastimes. And then carving pumpkins when it's not in season.
Right. So really completely different passions on both sides here. But if I were to ask you guys, because of what you're doing, your purpose that you guys have, you have a singular purpose, both of you together. And I've heard you guys talk about your purpose and really your vision that you want to achieve with it. And that's really where we dive in. Be like, okay, what are you on this earth to come and achieve? Because we as human beings, we're not meant to just exist. We are really meant to grow and to progress and to continue on and create a legacy, not for just us, but also those that we can pass it on to. Yep. So the biggest one, and I think that's one of my favorite ones, is that purpose discussion, because that's where we really start to dive in and really figure out what you can then essentially, I wouldn't say replace, but reframe what we did as an athlete, and now reframe that identity into a purpose that is going to be more fulfilling than what we ever experienced as athletes.
Yeah, that was a fascinating. First of all, we had a ton of great conversations, but that was a really interesting one, the difference between purpose and passion, and especially to hear it framed like that too, because we all have passions. I think my contribution to that conversation, and I know Trip echoes this sentiment too, is like, I want people to be excited to wake up in the morning. Right? Yeah. Like the worst thing we can have is to fall into, tomorrow, I got to get up at 7 a.m. But for me, and I hope it comes across in my tone too, is like when you have a project that's bigger than yourself, and I know this is what we're going to get into, the information we're about to drop and the project we're working on together is so much bigger than any one of us, and to bring our talents together to organize this and to take what you've been working on and to take what Trip you've been working on and the biomechanical movement aspect from mine it gets me excited.
It's so awesome. I mean, I love it. But I mean, I guess we got to finish out this impact framework for the listeners. Sure. I don't want to leave them hanging on.
Apologize.
No, you're good.
They're stressing out in their car.
I know they are. They're like, oh no,
I need to finish impact.
No, but honestly, like these things have to be developed, those first 3, in order to get to the next one, which is authenticity. Like, how can you go and be authentic and talk about this or this when really you don't even know what your purpose is, right? It's hard to go and be authentic in your relationships even, and really have that connection to people if you don't necessarily have a purpose behind you.
Right.
You know? And so that piece, I mean, it's all about that connection to others and really the biggest thing with authenticity is being authentic with yourself. There's so many, especially men, we are guilty of this to the highest degree.
Facts.
100%.
Is
Totally.
we can be so true to everyone but ourselves because we have to keep it in, right?
It's easier.
Yeah. And especially those fathers I talk to, like when you have to take on that father role and you have to, do certain things, you start to not be authentic with yourself and, what you're trying to achieve, because it's like, I need to sacrifice my stuff for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so really helping my clients be like, hey, let me teach you how to actually do both. Because a lot of them struggle with trying to actually do both. Have time for yourself and on that end. So where are we at? Where are we at on the impact framework now? We're on C. Oh, C. C's one of my favorite one because, the last 2, they're all more tactical based, right? C is consistency.
Ooh.
Right?
Preach.
Now, any fitness person out there, they know you cannot either lose weight, gain muscle without consistency, right?
Facts.
Yep.
It doesn't work. So, I mean, and really it's just about being consistent in all aspects of our life. Because you can't not be consistent and expect that, hey, I'm going to have success everywhere, right? And then T's one of those that every single athlete should resonate with: tenacity.
Ooh, that's a good word for that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because so many guys, you hear about like resilient, all this, but really it's a tenacity to be everything above it on that consistent level to really achieve success at a much faster pace than you ever thought was possible.
Impact.
Yep. So that's a whole impact framework on that side.
And working that. And this stuff that you're talking about too, because the framework you framed nicely, it's a lot of stuff, and I feel like it encompasses so much. A lot of it is behavioral, right? So this is stuff that it's not only we can love it, we can hear it, we can absorb it, we can understand it to be like, yeah, that's what I want. And then we have to turn it into action.
Yeah. It's, and that's really what it's all about, is understanding is great. But like you said, if there's no action to it, it doesn't matter what we know. It doesn't matter the knowledge. I mean, I'm trying to remember who said it best, but basically, if you know a whole bunch with no action, you're just a useful idiot.
Well, we all have that one friend that's like, oh, I'm going to start this. I'm going to write a book here today. I'm going to start this. And they never, ever do. And then we talked about this in another episode, is your words have value. So the more that you lie to yourself and lie to your community, your words reduce in value.
Yeah.
Right. And then that mental capacity of like, hey, I can't, I'm not doing the right things here. And you start spiraling down. So we always talked about how words have value and making sure to try not to do those kind of things.
Yeah. And it's hard. And that's the thing, is it's hard to stay committed to those things, right? They're hard. Hey, we are going to do this. And especially when you announce something. Oh my gosh. You want to put fear into your own soul. You're like,
oh yeah,
I'm doing this big thing. And I just told the world about it. Oh, snap. Right? Because it's really easy to have these big goals, put them on your vision board. Yeah. You can see it every day, right? And when you don't achieve them, who are you letting down? Just yourself, right?
Exactly.
Did you actually give any accountability to anybody else, right? And that's why I talk in being authentic is like, okay, let's take that vision board, and now we're going to post it in front of everyone. We're going to put it out there for the world to see. And you now have to commit to it, right? And, as athletes, we're kind of used to that, right? At the beginning of the season, every single team is like, our goal this year is to win the championships.
Yep.
right? I was talking to someone about this the other day. I was like, what would you do if you're on a team and your coach came to you? Now, mind you, maybe you're on a team that went 0-12 the year before, right? But you had a coach, and that next year, as you guys are setting goals, he comes and looks at you like, hey, guys, here's our goal for this year. We're going to win one game. What kind of motivation is that team going to have? What kind of preparation, what kind of effort are they going to put into when your goal is to win one game?
Yeah.
No coach ever says that. Even if you won 0 games the year before, your goal going into next year is, hey, we're going to win the conference championship. All right? Now, all the pundits and all the normal people, they're like, you can't win. I mean, people told me that all the time when I was at Utah State. I was like, hey, yeah, we're going to go in. I remember when we were playing Texas A&M my senior year, I was like, we're going to go in and we're going to beat them. And everyone's like, you can't beat them. You guys are 30 points underdogs. I was like, that doesn't matter. I was like, it's still a football team. It's still a football
any given
game.
Sunday.
Yeah. I was like, that doesn't matter. And that's the difference, really between an athlete and, anyone else. So,
And companies too. So this is affecting obviously a huge change in people's personal life, but also in their professional life too. And this is something that I think companies are really looking forward to, is having, employees that are invested in the company's mission and that are thinking like athletes, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there really is, and especially COVID. COVID almost all the problems that were kind of covered in a company were really, as soon as COVID hit and everyone kind of had to stay home and everything, all of a sudden it totally exposed all of these issues that organizations have refused to address for years. Yeah. They're like, oh snap. They're like, we have people quitting left and right. Right? We got what they call it, the great exodus or something, right? And all of a sudden now they don't have to actually come into work, and all of a sudden they're leaving town, moving cities, and all these things, and all of a sudden companies are like, oh, what do we do? And how do we have this? And there's always been this corporations have always tried to maybe build this team atmosphere from sports, but they miss so many key components of it. And it's one of those things that if you really want to build a team culture like you do in sports, you have to start with having not just accountability, but having a goal that everyone can get behind.
And the culture, right?
Yeah. You can't just have in the corporate world kind of more of this is kind of a bad word for it, but it's almost like a dictatorship, right? The head CEO comes down and says, hey, this is the goals for the year, right? This is what I expect you division managers to do, blah, 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 down the line, right? Well, in a team, because I remember, at Utah State, we had one team goal that our head coach set, which is win the conference. And then from there, though, as a team, we kind of elected the other smaller goals to get us there. What do we need to do? What do we need to be successful on this, and this, right? As a full team, we sat down and talked about those, right? In companies, it's always from a top-down approach. And, that doesn't make the culture unified. It's well, that's your goal. My goal isn't that. My goal is to make sure my family's okay. And if my family's not okay, then I got to go somewhere else. And it's well, what do you need to be successful, or what do you need to make sure your family's okay? I've never had a company ask me that.
Yeah.
Right?
Thinking back.
For sure. They're out there, but that's not the most companies' MO.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that you really have to approach from a spot of objectivity and really, am I willing to learn? Am I willing to change in order to really accomplish something even greater?
Yeah. And I think that's really a great point. And I think this is why parents now are putting their kids in so many athletic sports. You know, they're playing soccer, they're doing gymnastics, they're wrestling. You were a 4-sport athlete at one point in your life, right?
Yeah.
Gymnastics, you were a mogul skier, you played college football. You wrestler too, right?
Yep. I
wrestled.
wrestled in high school. Yeah. For a period of time, I played basketball, and then I realized I was super short. I'm like, I was like, not everyone can be a Spud Webb, but.
And it's because these things teach us these life values, especially as you become more and more elite, right? As you get to the higher levels, you get to colleges, especially Division I, and you're learning these things, and you're approached with all, and then all of a sudden it gets taken away.
Yeah, it's the only word really that is so encompassing is it's all just stripped away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard, because here's the thing. So many people can kind of redefine themselves later in life, right? Say someone that was in a certain career, they were an engineer, and then all of a sudden 20 years down the road, they realize, I hate being an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
They can go and all of a sudden be something else. They can go and be a doctor if they wanted to, right? With some time and everything. Sports is the only thing. Once it's gone, it's never coming back. Mm-hmm. You're never going to go play Major League Baseball.
Don't break my heart like that, Adrian. No, there's a small percentage in my head. I'm the rookie coming back.
Right. But that's one of the things that, like, for me, I had to actually come to terms with is like, I am never going to go and be a professional football player. Mm-hmm. Like that, it's never going to happen. I can't just all of a sudden go back and be like, hey, I always want to be a professional athlete, right? Mm-hmm. Now I can kind of there's maybe an exception to this rule, which is being a professional golfer, right? Like maybe like that's still in the cards, like because they do have the senior tour. So I was like, that's still kind of in the cards that I'm like, I actually might try here in the next few years, but
I'll play with you.
There you go. So, but in general, like, kind of across the board, once you're done with your sport, like you're done. You're never going back. Mm-hmm. You're never playing. Now you might coach, you might be involved with it some way, shape, or form, but you're never playing it again.
Well, speaking on that, I think this is time for us to drop this special announcement right now. Would you like to do it?
Yeah,
you're the guest.
Yeah,
man.
I can. Yeah, I'm more than happy to. Yeah, so really, because of like all of these experiences that I had, because of like sports getting ripped away, and honestly, like as an athlete, you have to go through a grieving process. You have to grieve the loss of your sport, and I didn't know that until down the road after multiple businesses had. I fluctuated between having high success and then failure with it. And then I finally got to the point, and mind you, a therapist didn't help me with this. A coach helped me with this. A therapist made me realize that I had some unresolved issues, but they didn't believe that, leaving sports was an unresolved issue. But a coach helped me realize that, hey, I need to actually grieve the loss of this sport. Because it's been such a part of my life. Being an athlete, well, really an elite athlete, was such an important part of my life. And so as I was going through the healing process and trying to find individuals to help me, there was lots of coaches that I hired. There was mentors that came on that I brought on board with me to help me. But what I found was there wasn't really a spot for athletes to focus on really putting all these tools together to be better and create a post-sports life. There was quite a few like retreats, workshops, things to go to develop skills, whether that was in sales, whether that was starting a business, things like that, but nothing really focused on, hey, how do you take these athletic skills and turn them into success in your post-sports career? And how do you transition in that post-sports career? Wise. And so, earlier this year, started work building out really a growth adventure for athletes, and got in touch. That's when I started to network out, got in touch with Tripp, found out what they were doing, and instantly it kind of clicked the fact that, do you know what else there isn't a big thing out there with? How do we pair genetics with helping ourselves as athletes live longer, be healthier for our kids? And so a couple weeks ago, we really kind of narrowed this down, and, super excited to announce the fact that we now together have a retreat that is especially the only one out there that is specifically designed for athletes to help with a way for post-sports career, but more importantly, a way to make sure that you're there to build a legacy and longevity for your family, for yourself, through genetic testing, through everything else that you guys have to offer. And super excited to announce it. Let's go! And honestly, we as we were talking and I was thinking about stuff, one of the things is it's named after probably the best person that as I was going about it, I just thought of the song From Zero to Hero, right? In no time flat, right? So it's called the Herculean Adventure, and it is going to be amazing.
In February.
February 12th through the 17th.
Yep.
Where are we going?
In beautiful Costa Rica. No, it's super exciting, and the fact that, number one, extremely exclusive. We only have 20 spots available, unfortunately. Like, I know that there's way more than 20 guys that need this, but unfortunately, just due to not just logistics, but size-wise and what we actually want to provide for each of you on that level is we only have 20 spots available on that side. So, it's one of those things that we know. Especially, this is kind of the inaugural event. It's why we're having it in Costa Rica as well.
Let's go.
And so we're so excited for this, and these 20 guys that get to be a part of this first one. Oh, dude.
Yeah, yeah. When I first heard the idea of this, I was like, "Are you serious?" I couldn't picture it, and so you've heard it here. On Health or High Water, Ascend Performance Training.
And live on Facebook.
It is now partnering with you and to create the Herculean Adventure, the very first inaugural genetically optimized retreat for athletes. This is going to be a totally immersive experience that is going to cover so many different aspects of who you are, financial, finding your purpose, developing authenticity. This is going to be a completely unique first experience of its kind.
Dude, and not just first of a kind, but honestly, it's going to be one that is going to be a long-lasting, really legacy. I'm not afraid to announce my big goals in front of people. Never,
let's
right?
go.
I love it, and honestly, because of my personal experience over the next 5 years, I do have a goal to impact 1 million athletes' lives. In some way, shape, or form. I know not everyone's going to be able to come to a retreat like this. So, be on the lookout. We got so many things, other things coming down the pipeline to help athletes, and really impact their lives in whatever way, shape, or form we can. But, for sure, we know like this growth adventure, and we call it a growth adventure for a reason, because there is no way that you're not going to grow. And I can promise you right here on the spot, if you choose to come to this thing, you'll make leaps and bounds, and it will pay for itself tenfold over the next year after you show up. So,
if somebody's on right now listening to this, or their friend sends this to them, and they're like, "Holy crap, I need to get a hold. I need to figure. Where can they?"
Where can they go? So we do have a website with all the information that you guys could possibly want, HerculeanAdventure.com. If you don't know how to spell Herculean,
we'll put it in the bio.
We'll put it in the bio. We'll make it easy for you. But it's all in there. Now, part of the process, I will tell you this, right, is we are being very selective on who these 20 individuals are. So you do have to fill out an application to make sure you are a right fit. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, is we need the right people here in order to help continue to spread the message forward, in order to continue to provide the impact that we're looking to provide on that end. So, it's some of you, it might not be the time for you right now. And that's okay, because I know if this would have been presented to me a couple years after I left college, I would have known that this was what I needed. All right. If there's any sort of, is this right for me or not, fill out an application. Fill out an application, and you'll have a conversation.
Application
Yep,
free?
free application. There might even be a little gift if you fill out an application. Yeah, I'll keep that one for some other time there. But
Keep
yeah,
some surprises in
that's
there.
right. That's right. Yeah, one thing is you guys will learn the more that you're with me is I love to give back to people, and I love to. Honestly, I love to give gifts. It's just I like it.
The love languages. The girls always ask you, "Have you read that book?" I can tell yours is giving gifts.
It's funny. Every now and then, my wife will say that I don't like to give gifts, but I do. They're just different types of gifts.
This is crazy. And you know what I think about too when I picture the tentacles of what's going to happen here is going to be these leaders in the community, not only changing who they are as people and having an opportunity to reinvent themselves, but to take this knowledge, this experience, and bring this back to their churches, to their communities, to their wives, to their families, to their teams, and to reinvent themselves and reinvent their communities and be pillars. This is going to be further outreaching than any of us truly really recognize, and that's why Tripp and I, every time we talk, we're so blessed to have you in this room, to have you flying to Denver, to have this weekend with us. It's been a fantastic time, man, and I honestly I'm just so excited for what's going to happen in the future.
I cannot tell you both how I almost spilled the beans so many times on this. I am the Tom Holland of fitness right now. Just literally, it's like, no, never mind. I'm good.
He's a bean spiller, by the
Yeah.
way. Tripp is definitely a bean spiller.
No,
Just because you're so excited, This is so awesome.
It is so exciting. I honestly, and for those of you that are asking, why are we taking applications now when it's not even until February?
Yeah.
Right. Do want to give you guys some context in this area is the fact that in order to make sure we provide the value you guys need, in order to make sure that everything is in place, right? There are some things that need to happen beforehand, right? I mean, the genetic testing that you guys do, unfortunately, there's a time that it takes in order to, and so in order to make sure that all of those pieces are in place by the day one of it, we do have to make sure that everyone is in long before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there is a time limit on when we can get people in as well. That's why we're announcing it now, because we have to make sure all the testing and all these other things are done long beforehand. So I know I'll get that question often, so might as well address it now.
Yeah. That makes sense. Tripp, anything you want to add at all?
Just one last thing too is just like what a crazy experience it was from having a conversation with you on LinkedIn to meeting. Then we all three met on Zoom, and then all these amazing conversations happened. Let's do this, let's do that. And I really want to challenge the listeners, not just to go sign up for this challenge, but to go out and connect and network a little bit. I think that's been the biggest thing is we would have never met if there wasn't a connecting or networking opportunity, right? One of us went out of their way and just tried to make something happen. So I'm so blessed that we made this all work, guys. I'm so excited about, what 2024 is going to hold for us and being able to facilitate this amazing program and wellness retreat for these people. And I'm proud of myself for not spilling the beans.
Hey, we'll give props to Tripp 100%. No, it's I'm super stoked for the future because, like you said, Brett, the purpose of this isn't to just impact 20 individuals. The purpose is to give these 20 the power that they can go into their communities and now impact even more. Because as athletes, the biggest thing as athletes is we love to have a platform that we can go and help others and to be looked at as a pillar in the community And that's what the purpose of this is to give you that opportunity once again, be that pillar at home, at work, and in the community.
So I know we're wrapping up towards the end here with everything. Where can everyone find you? LinkedIn, website.
Yeah.
Let's get the whole load.
Yeah.
It'll all be in the bio, but let's go.
Yeah.
For it.
So really easy on social media, just about every social media. Adrian Bybee. I am blessed. I'm the only Adrian Bybee. If you Google Adrian Bybee, I'm the only one. So I'm
Nice.
blessed to have a very unique name in that sense. So on Twitter, or now X, right, formerly Twitter, you can find me at Adrian Bybee. Instagram, same thing, at Adrian Bybee. On LinkedIn, it's Adrian Bybee, MBA. On LinkedIn, Facebook, same thing, Adrian Bybee, kind of across the board. Website, adrianbybee.net. And yeah, any other contact information, email and stuff, you guys can find through those avenues.
Well, you heard it here on the Health or High Water podcast. I want to give a shout out to all of our former guests. I know they're listening to this too. There's a movement going on right now, and that is apparent. There's a huge movement. We're all a part of it, and we've got to be blessed to be in a position to witness it, and not only witness it, but like I said, be a part of it, including you guys. So you guys out there, look for big things from us, and we're excited to bring to you more content.
Thank you, Adrian, for coming on the podcast and coming all the way from Idaho, man, to come out here, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I wouldn't have it any other way. So,
All right, y'all. Have a good day. Peace.
Nice.